Hello and welcome back. In our previous presentation, we have talked about how to insert an element in a queue, and in this presentation, we'll be talking about how to delete an element in queue. So here is our queue uh, with size 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as there are 5 elements in the queue. Uh, so its size is 5, and this is the last element in the queue, and it is pointed by the position rear, and this is always pointed by the variable of front. So this is the first item in the queue, and this is the last item in the queue. So as I've already told you, that deletion in queue occurs from the front, as it's obvious because for example, say there is a queue of person who is willing to buy a ticket, and the person who is at the front of the queue is going to receive the ticket first, and then he will leave the queue. So this means uh, deletion of item. So deletion of item always occurs from front in case of queue. But what after delete? But what after deleting the first item? So say after deleting 4, as in a normal queue, as in the queue that we see in our normal life, we can say that the second person in the queue will shift to the position where the first person was initially, and third person will shift to the position where second person was initially. So there is shifting of elements towards the left, or one unit. There is shifting of one units either towards the left or towards the right. As our front is towards the left side, there is shifting of element towards the left. If our front was right over here, then there will shifting of elements towards the right. For deleting of item in our queue, we have to implement the concept for shifting of elements after we have deleted the first item, or the item that is being pointed by the front variable. Now let us talk about the program for how to delete an item in a queue. So I'm going to define or write a function here. Say the function is of type void, and I'm going to write the name del. So at first we have to check if our queue is empty or not. If our queue is empty, then certainly we cannot delete any element from the queue. So at first we know that our initial condition is both front and rear variable that we have declared in our previous presentation is equal to 0 at first. This means our queue is empty. So right here we're going to check if our front is equal to or rear, then we can certainly give the message for the end user saying that our queue is empty. So when our queue is empty, we cannot delete any item from the queue. Else, if it is not empty, if there are elements in the queue, as in this case, what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to print the item that is going to be deleted, and then we have to shift the data towards the left. So first of all, I'm going to print the data that is going to be deleted. So the data deleted is, and then percentage %d, this is for the integer, and the data we're going to delete is queue of front. So queue of front is queue of 0, so queue of 0 is certainly 4, and then we have to shift the element towards the left. I mean 6 comes to the position where 4 was initially, 15 comes to the position where 6 was initially, and so on. So for that I'm going to declare one more variable, so it is of type int I, and for that I'm going to apply the loop. So for I equals to 0. I is, sorry, here I'm going to delete. I've cleared if part to get some space over here. So here is our else part. First of all, I've declared the variable int I, and then I'm going to apply a loop here for I is equal to 0. Now how many shifting do I need here? Since our rear is pointing to memory location 4, our first shifting is 6 to 4 and 15 to the position of 6, 25 to the position of 15, and 45 to the position of 25. So here we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 shifting. So I should be less than rear minus 1. It is because, so as I have told you earlier, after inserting this last data, which is 45, rear will be pointing to memory location 5. So our rear is equal to 5. So 5 minus 1 is 4. And our loop runs from 0, 1, 2, 3. I is less than 4 means from I equals to 0 to I equals to 3. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 shifting in this case, and I'm going to increment I by 1, I plus plus. After that, in Q of I, in place of Q of 0, so in place of 4, what we're going to overwrite is Q of I plus 1, which is 0 plus 1, which is certainly 1. So 6 will be assigned to the position where 4 was initially when I is equals to 0. So after in our second iteration, when I is equal to 1, in place of Q of 1, so here in place of Q of 1, I mean in place of 6, Q of I plus 1, which is 1 plus 1, 2. Q of 2 will be assigned, which is 15. So in place of 6, 15 will be assigned, and so on. So this is the loop for shifting of elements, shifting of data towards the left, and this completes our deletion part. Before that, what after shifting all the elements for this last element, as our Q was pointing to memory location 5, we have to decrement rear by 1, so that our size of Q will be reduced at last, and this completes the presentation for deletion of item in our queue. I hope you got the concept for how to delete an item in a queue, and thanks for watching.